My name's Simon. I'm part of the LinkedIn team in Singapore. And Singapore is becoming a hub. It's becoming a center of excellence for direct sourcing. So I'm really delighted today to be able to introduce to you some of the most influential and thought leaders we have in the country. Before I introduce them, I want to tell you a story. Imagine you had a wonderful day at LinkedIn, and the cocktails, which is starting at 6 o'clock, are beginning to flow, and you have had a lovely, lovely day. And tomorrow morning, you get a call from your CEO, and he's saying, I need to talk to you really quickly. And you go up to his office, and he says, the strategic imperatives of our business, we're growing very, very quickly, and that plan we had to grow in 6 countries in Southeast Asia, that's going to happen. So I need 200 people. I need them right across 5 different cities. I need them really quickly, and I need finance, I need HR, I need marketing, I need engineering. And you take a deep breath and you think, I've been expecting this. As a HR leader, I've been expecting this because we're very closely tuned to the business. I know exactly what our plans were. In fact, of the 200 people we need to hire, over 10,000 of them are following our company. Over half of those have been influenced by our recruitment team. There's over 1,000 who are really warm and very interested to see what we're doing. Not only that, but I can tell you of the countries we're looking at, there's 4 of them I think we can do very easily, but there's one I know we're going to have a challenge with. So maybe as a talent lead, my advice is maybe we should put that expansion plan to phase 2 for that city. I'm also going to do this with my cost per hire 90% below what it was 3 years ago. That's the vision. That's where talent solutions can make a real impact to your lives. So with that, I would like to introduce some of the most influential thought leaders we have in the country to come up on stage and share their vision and how they've transformed recruitment in their own organizations. So would you like to come up, please? Thank you. Thank you. We're all feeling quite relaxed, are we? Do you get that feeling people are looking at us? Do you get that feeling?
Just a little bit.
Excellent, okay. Well, thanks so much. So first I want to introduce you to Joanna from SingPost, a company you've all heard of. She's done incredible things. I think on her LinkedIn profile, there's an amazing word you use, and it's a little something that we've talked about before. It's about, it doesn't cost a candle anything to light another candle. And I think what Joanna's been doing is lighting candles right across the region, particularly very passionate about leadership development in APAC. And also, one of the things is you are a big Man United supporter.
Absolutely.
And do you have anything against Liverpool supporters?
No, my father is one.
Okay, okay. The reason I ask is because sitting beside you, we have Lee.
I know, he's from Liverpool.
Lee is a big Liverpool supporter. So, and if it gets difficult, Susie, I might have to get you in between those to see if there's...
referee.
Okay, you referee, okay. So Lee has an extraordinary job at Standard Chartered Bank. He knows everything about recruitment. He's been involved with developing RPO processes right across the world, even from Moscow to Dubai, and he'll be sharing some of his insights. And then we have Susie from ANZ Bank. And Susie started off in the RPO business. And one of her clients was ANZ Bank. And they loved her so much that ANZ wanted to hold on to her. And you've been there for quite a while.
8 years.
Thank you. Okay. So let's get kicked off. So I'm going to start with Joanna. And first question is, maybe just for everyone's benefit, just describe your role and what you love about your current role.
Okay, thanks, Simon. My name is Joanna Yeo. I'm the VP for Talent Management for Singapore Post, and Singapore Post is going through a really, really exciting transformation journey. Most of you would know us as the national postal provider, but when was the last time any of you remember posting a letter? Very good. Thank you very much for being one of our customers. But physical mail is dropping. Mail volumes are declining, but we find that our online parcels and packages are picking up. So our vision is now to be the regional leader for e-commerce logistics and trusted communications for Southeast Asia. And because of that, in order to do that, we are actually investing about $100 million in postal and distribution networks, in our processes and our people. And it is in the people part that's where I come in. My job is to find the right people for the right jobs at the right time to deliver us the right results. And that's why I'm very passionate, because it's not very often in anyone's career that you actually get an opportunity to change the DNA of an organization. And, Hari talked about how talent are the DNA of our organization. So I actually, am very privileged to be in a seat where I sit down with the CEO and his -1 reports day in, day out, talking about the new businesses that we want to grow in e-commerce and in logistics. And then I go out and I sell the story unashamedly to every single candidate whom I think will be good for us. So just, if you don't mind, I'll just do a quick a share of a recent success story we had. We actually were able to attract a top talent with international e-commerce experience from the Silicon Valley to join SingPost. He is a Singaporean who wanted to return home. And we connected with him while he was still in the US through our LinkedIn job posting. So that's just one of very many success stories we've had with LinkedIn in the last 10 months.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll pass on to Lee in terms of your role and what you're passionate about in your current role.
Okay,
Can we hear Lee? Okay, maybe if we use Joanna's...
yeah, I think it's big on me.
Okay.
So my official title is the Group Head of Specialist Products, Operations and HR Service Delivery. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I'll explain what that means in the context of HR services and delivery functions. So I'm a group head of talent acquisition, so I'm responsible for strategy, policy, all of the delivery teams across 80-plus countries around the world. I also run operations for a number of specialist product areas within HR, like talent and learning, performance reward and benefits. I'm responsible for international mobility, where we have shared service support out of India, in addition to some specialists that kind of sit on the cusp of reward and benefits, in addition to very much a talent bias, and they sit with the talent acquisition managers to enable global talent deployment. I'm also responsible for the data and analytics, people analytics agenda now of the bank, which is a really exciting piece of HR work, which kind of really defines the future strategy, not only about we measure many of the outputs of what we do as HR professionals, but helps us to kind of justify and realize that in actual real outcomes for the business, and ultimately, hopefully, drive and demonstrate that we're driving performance with the things that we do day to day. And the final thing that I kind of look after is service delivery. So the country service delivery teams that manage payroll, risk, compliance, those kind of things, I'm also responsible for them. What am I passionate about? Building businesses, making a difference, delivering bottom line impact to, I've long held the view that, in HR, the journey is really about impacting the P&L, making a difference in the performance of the business and being able to justify, demonstrate, and show that in our metrics. So I'm really passionate about that. I'll share a drink with anyone afterwards and bore you to death. I'll talk about Teradata, infrastructure, technology strategy, microstrategy. Happy to do that. But generally, I'm passionate about enabling the business to do what we're here to do. And interestingly, giving them the time to do what they're there to do as well. So not replicating time within their day. I've done that in multiple countries, and I'm still very passionate about that. And that's why, in Standard Chartered over the last 6-7 years, we've built a function of about 400 people that supports that business growth and that constant ability to keep talent coming into the organization and recycled within the organization as well. That's one of our key brand promises, is to deliver careers for our employees, and we can only do that by offering international employment opportunities. Is that it, Sam?
Thank you very much. Wonderful. Right, Susie.
Hi, everybody. Is my mic working? Great. My name's Susie Custerson, and I work with ANZ, as Simon highlighted. I wear 2 hats. I'm the head of recruitment and resourcing for our international banking division. And my other hat is I'm the head of HR shared services for Singapore. So HR operations, payroll, employee relations, all of the nice problem areas. And it's great. I love it. I love the variety. We have a footprint that operates across 32 countries. So I can honestly say, hand on heart, there isn't one day that's the same as the next. There's always a lot of unexpected items out there waiting for me in my inbox, which I just love. Our goal as an organisation is to be the most respected bank. Banking is obviously going through a real change as an industry. And one of the things I think that makes me get up in the morning and come to work, and I know it's the same with my team, is we really want to make a difference, and we can do that difference through our people and creating opportunities for them, both within the organisation and outside.
Thank you, Susie. You can see why these guys are thought leaders. The passion comes through very loud and clear. Now, one of the things we get asked a lot about is how do you transform a business, and how do you build a direct sourcing team? And I think it'd be worthwhile to maybe ask each of you to take us through the transformation you went through. And maybe, Joanna, do you want to start off?
The direct sourcing team at SingPost comprises of myself and one other colleague who works 3 days a week. Full stop. That's all the resources we have. But even with that, with those limited resources, we're able to make an impact to the business because LinkedIn gives us the opportunity to be very, very targeted in who we're looking for. And the tool, if you punch in the right keywords, you'll get the right people. The right profiles will pop up. And, because I don't have a big brand that's instantly recognizable, I'm very nimble and I'm very humble. I write in-mails to people whom we want to attract. And, I think our response rate is 50%. So I do get, for every 2 emails I write, I get 1 response back. And that actually helps me then open the way to engage directly with the candidates and to tell them our transformation story. The other thing we do is, because I'm very, very lean, I also use my line managers or my CEO and his, who we call EVPs, I use their profiles as hiring managers. I do not use my own profile as a recruiter. So when people click on the profile of their hiring managers and see who they're actually potentially going to get to a chance to work for, they get excited and they contact us directly. So it's just a very good way of engaging directly with the candidates. So we leverage a lot. With 1.5 team members, you can't do very much.
1.5 members, and it's like you're hiring about 4 people.
We're hiring about 4 people a month. Yes.
Well done, extraordinary. Talk about efficiency, fantastic. Lee, a very different organisation from Standard Chartered Bank. How does it work there?
Can I just check the question again? So how do we build a direct sourcing function, or how do we? Yeah.
How do you build it? So
Okay.
the transformation you went through. I know when you first arrived at the bank, you were in Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
It was an organisation where direct sourcing was beginning to become part of the fabric of the recruitment organisation, but you had to fundamentally start from the beginning. So I'd love to understand that more.
Okay, I mean, I'll answer it in two different ways, actually, depending on where you're influencing within an organisation. So I'll start from the individual's perspective. And a little bit of context, I think, for you. When I joined into Dubai, I was introduced to the recruitment team, which was essentially 3 administrators that would issue contracts of employment as a subunit of HR. So it wasn't really progressive in terms of running a process, project managing a process, or certainly not direct sourcing. They were typically administrative around hiring managers' requests. So starting with a kind of a micro view on influencing and building that out, I think it starts with actually finding the right people. For me, motivation and appetite to direct source are essential ingredients going into any talent you bring into the organisation. If you fundamentally hire someone that wants to manage agencies or that doesn't want to put the work in when it comes to direct sourcing, essentially that's what you will get. If you look for hunter-type profiles that want to engage in a far more proactive fashion, they'll do a number of things. They'll build relationships with the business. They'll set expectations. I think because remembering on an individual level, it can sometimes be if you're building from scratch and you don't have a talent pipeline set up, there's a startup period. That startup period is where your expectation management with your stakeholders is crucial. Because if you say you're going to deliver something and you don't, as we all know, ultimately your stakeholders will switch off. So in those early days, while you're setting up pipelines, it's very much about contracting with stakeholders, having the right people that want to direct source, that want to engage in that way, and want to build talent pipelines. So that's what we did. I mean, we essentially looked for a different profile of individual that wanted to direct source. So that's kind of a micro view. At a macro view, and I think that this is an interesting one, because obviously in our case it was global transformation. We had to influence a global platform and ensure that people recruiting in one country were following essentially the same process as people in another country. And so that meant a single instance of technology. That meant we had to design processes from start to finish, so that our customers within the bank had one view of how to recruit people. And the other thing to really bear in mind with that is we had to have technology that enabled a constant flow pipeline of candidates coming into the organization, and utilizing external social media and other sources of candidates. So we separated a lot of those streams and workflows into people, so capability driven, hiring the right people, organization design, making sure we had the right structure to support, and break that into three pieces really: coverage and relationship management, the ability to source, and then the kind of administrative transactional aspects of hiring people into the organization. So people, then process and technology. And that really essentially was how we went about building the function. We obviously produced tools for the recruiters, for the talent acquisition managers, to be able to access candidates in the external world. LinkedIn's been a big part of that strategy, as you know. We've always taken a channel approach, so both passive and active candidates through online advertising in the site, in addition to passive approaches. But a big part in all this is obviously building the business case, because it takes investment. If you're going to move from 2 or 3 recruiters to 100, 150, that takes investment at an organizational level to build the business case around that. We come to cost per hire, and we come to return on investment. And essentially that's where you get into the, I wouldn't say the removal of recruitment agencies, because I think they have a place in any channel strategy. But I think you do need to maximize your channels in a way that shows benefit to the organization. You can use that as a business case to fund, obviously, investment that you need in direct sourcing tools, or additionally to additional headcount. And that business case really defines the sponsorship that you will get at whatever level in the organization you're operating, whether it's global board, whether it's regional management structure. To be able to say that we will impact the P&L in a way which means that we'll take your cost down for the cost of hiring, it's a big opportunity that the business generally likes.
Fantastic, thanks, Lee. One thing you touched on was the business case and how important it was.
Mm-hmm.
And with Susie, with your experience with ANZ, how did that play out? What was the business case, the compelling event to go ahead and go for direct sourcing?
I think whenever you develop any kind of business case, you really need to make sure that it aligns with the business strategy at the time and the objectives that the organisation is trying to achieve. As an example, there's no point in trying to convince somebody of the need to get funding to build a massive in-house capability where you're going to hire lots of people who are going to do all your recruitment for you. If the organisation's objective is around reducing headcount, that's not going to fly. So you really need to make sure that you're aligned. I think when also putting together a business case, you've got to make sure that you've done your research externally and also internally, looking at where the pain is in the organisation and looking for where the quick wins are. You absolutely need data and information and the numbers. That's the key thing that's going to influence all of the key people that make the decisions, which are normally the finance people. And do your homework. Find out who the decision makers are. Most of the decisions of things that get signed off, those are usually achieved before you go into the meeting itself. So there's a lot of lobbying and influencing that takes place beforehand. So yeah, those are the sorts of things that I think have certainly helped me in the past get things across the line.
Fantastic, okay. And Joanna, with you, with business case, it was tell us more about that story.
Yeah, I've got plenty of stories. Now, with Singapore Post, it was quite interesting because LinkedIn was just seen as a social media tool. So when I said, let's try LinkedIn, I actually I had people in the organization who asked me, what is LinkedIn? Why? Why LinkedIn? So, I had to very quickly demonstrate what it meant. So I think Atul was the sales manager who came to see me. We had to recruit the digital marketing manager, new role for SingPost, completely new set of skills. And so we keyed in we put in the keywords, out came 10 profiles, and that's the story that Hari shared. From the moment we posted the job to the moment we offered it to the candidate was 6 days. So I think that makes quite a compelling business case to the business leaders who needed to recruit very quickly in an entirely new part of the business. So I was able to persuade them that this was the right tool for us. And we also used, there was no budget now because I went in right in the middle of the year. So I persuaded somebody to share her budget with me. And I agreed to say that, I would hire 3 people for her and to offset that cost. And we achieved that within the first month. Every month after that has been a bonus for us. So that in itself, I think if you show quick results and you're impactful, the business case will speak for itself.
Wonderful. Excellent story. Okay. I guess the other question we get asked a lot is, there are wonderful tools out there and social media offers a new channel, but the organizational changes you need to make direct sourcing work. Some organizations I speak to say we have to bring in a new brand of recruiter to help. How is that for you, Susie, in terms of the people side of getting it right?
Absolutely. I think when you look at any credible function, irrespective of whether it's HR, finance, or whatever, if you're looking at taking an organisation on a change, you need the best possible expertise. And part of your research beforehand should be around finding out where that exists, what it costs, what it looks like, and how do you create that yourself, if that's actually your objective at the time. So in the case of ANZ, we actually wanted a really diverse group of people. So we actively took some people within the organisation and retrained them. We actively went to the market and engaged with an expert company that could provide us with some of the instant expertise that we needed access to. And we also looked to develop and attract our own capability over time as well. It really depends on what your starting point is. Buy, build, hybrid. Those sorts of types of discussions are usually the things that take place internally.
Excellent, okay. Lee, I guess the interesting thing is once you've gone on this major journey towards direct sourcing, can you describe the perception of HR and recruitment to the business? Because a lot of the leadership we speak to, they're trying to bridge that gap between the business and HR. And these new ways of doing this must have made a big impact with that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think... in all honesty, HR becomes seen. I always view personally talent acquisition as the front office of HR. So if you think in banking terms, I see us as the front office. But the awareness within the business that grows is more of a commercial view, a commercial lens, and that you care more about the financials, about the business is running, because you're taking out potentially significant cost by direct sourcing. I won't say that journey isn't bumpy, because essentially when you have an organization, depending on where it is in its maturity along the direct sourcing route, there are often relationships that you're going to come in between with external suppliers, with existing headhunters, and essentially you're breaking that bond to an extent once you start to build talent pipelines and then you start to remove. But in terms of the way that HR and in this context, talent acquisition teams are viewed, they're viewed very highly. They become seen as creating value. And actually, one of the journeys that I've seen, which is quite interesting as well, is the finance and the COO's office become quite engaged in that journey and want to support you as well. So when it comes to financial forecasting, when it comes to commitment around hiring numbers, hiring spend, actually the direct sourcing route becomes more reliable, more dependable.
Great. Fantastic. With SingPost, similar story? Just the business case, getting the perception of HR in the organization. So, I know you and I have spoken a lot about HR needs to speak the language of business. Tell me more about that.
I'm very passionate about making sure that HR people stand up, either stand up or lean in, as Sheryl Sandberg says, because unfortunately in Singapore, we get labeled as just order takers and transaction handlers. And I think that's very sad because we have the opportunity to actually impact, like I said, the DNA of an organization. So in SingPost, with this tool, it's actually given HR a bit more of a profile. Like just for example, yesterday I sat down with the COO. He needed to hire for a new role. I sat down at his computer, logged in with my recruiter license, and together we punched in the right words and found 17 profiles that he could potentially look at. I downloaded that into PDF into his computer, and he's going through it today, not me. So he's doing the screening of who he wants. I'm pretty sure when I get back to the office, I'll get a note as to whom he wants to in-mail. And you really become a partner and not just an order taker. And that in itself actually raises your profile very easily in an organization.
Thank you, John. Fantastic. Okay. The other area is timing. When is a good time to embark on a journey? There's more technology available, more tools, more knowledge out there. I guess is the time right now? You think of how mature the passive candidate pools are within LinkedIn. I guess the question, for Susie, if you hadn't acted when you did with ANZ, what would have happened? I guess I'm trying to get a sense of urgency, a chance for you to kind of grasp this while it's there.
I think the first thing is there's never a good time. That's life, and it's never too late to start. Every organisation, irrespective of which industry you operate in, is all about getting better visibility of its costs, getting better control around how it's operating, how its organisation is effectively operating today, particularly if you're working in a publicly listed company. We're all accountable to shareholders. So any type of activity or initiative that is going to give you better visibility around what is happening across your organisation and where, and arm you with data that is actually going to help the organisation make more informed decision making, absolutely is critical, and today is the day you need to do that.
Thanks, Susie. Lee, we've spoken about sort of the future of the talent acquisition role. And this is our first big event in Singapore, and I can see in years to come, this room will be much bigger and more heads of talent acquisition. That as a profession will grow and strengthen. Where do you see the future of that role, and how will it emerge over the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I think that there's a number of emerging trends, and I think you've heard from each member, of the panel talk about data in some respect. One of the views that I hold actually is that the capability of, so I view a specialist, a HR specialist, as a talent acquisition specialist, so a non-generalist role. The role of a specialist, the new operating standard will be someone that understands data in a far more meaningful way. It won't be, a specialist that goes to, to understand data from somebody else. I think you have to embrace data, embrace strategic metrics, and be able to demonstrate outcomes. So I think the role of, talent, whether you are mobilizing, whether you're hiring, whether you're growing and pulling up through the organization or laterally moving, all of those kind of underpinning metrics and data points that help to enable that journey, in some respects visualize that journey in a way that's meaningful for the businesses, is going to be the new operating standard. And we've seen that, with a number of, different research bodies set up now externally that are talking about human capital in a far more strategic fashion. I think that's one thing. I think the other big shift and trend that's been happening actually for a few years is, is the convergence behind those that hire externally, those that hire internally, those that advise. And I think, the one thing that stands out, lots of research to talk about this, the role of the talent acquisition individual will become more talent advisory in the context of the relationship with the business, and how do we get the most out of, our pipeline, whether it's internal or external, really to meet the needs of the business. And then, just as importantly, the group of stakeholders that we serve, our employees, and how we create careers, deliver our brand promise for those individuals, by creating opportunities. So I think, with we all have specialisms, but I do think that we'll see a degree of convergence around those roles. Far more professional view on data, and I think the one thing that everybody probably understands is a very commercial view on how these products impact the business, what they deliver, and what they're going to continue to deliver in the growth of the business.
Thank you, Lee. And with SingPost, Joanna, similar story?
I think for trends, I can't speak for the world, but for SingPost, all I'm concerned about is to make sure that we have the right talent on board. So for the people whom we brought on board, I just want to make sure we keep them in the next year. So I will also be working on the development of the talent that we bring in. So I'm actually very honored to be here with Lee and with Susie, who have actually built up a system for talent acquisition, because for me it's been very opportunistic at this point in time. It's very personality driven. So I'm also looking to learn how to actually build a whole team and a structure in place so that there's sustainability in what we do. It's good to have some runs on the board, but you need to keep winning.
Excellent, okay. Susie, we talked a little bit about sort of measurements and how important that is. What are the most important measurements, do you think, in justifying direct sourcing and getting it right?
I think that's an easy one, it's cost. I work in a bank. But there's lots of other types of operating metrics that are important to review as well. I mean, the holy grail for any organisation is time, quality and cost. The challenge is you can never have all three without one of them being a trade-off. So at different points in an organisation's life cycle, there'll be different things that are important to them, whether it be quality of hire, whether it be how quickly we can get talent on board because we're building out in a new area, or how expensive is it, or how do we need to reduce cost in a particular type of environment, such as the one we're operating in at the moment. So it's really a mixture of those three things.
Okay. Any sort of words of wisdom, Leah, given all you've been through in terms of the transformation of the bank, what are the top tips? Because there's so many things you could do, but what are the most important things to get right as you're embarking on this journey?
Actually, if I could just go back to the previous question, and then I'll come to the top tips, and I'll try and keep it brief. I think the other thing that, and I know you've got someone coming to talk about data, so I won't go into too much detail. One of the powers around data moving forward is that historically we've had sets of data sitting in different places, and the difficulty was in overlaying them to understand the relationship between them. So, what fuels attrition, what drives performance, what quality and source of hire is going to stay longer and perform, or is going to leave in the first 12 months. And so, in terms of the strategic metrics, it's changing. It's changing because of technology enablement, and the traditional view, has been driven by some of the constraints that we've had in actually being able to match data sets together. But imagine, and this is where it gets exciting, and I know data isn't exciting, but this is where it does get exciting. Imagine if you can say, if we hire passive candidates from LinkedIn, they'll perform better over the 2-year period, and they'll deliver return, and they'll stay. They're sticky. I mean, that's the kind of data journey that that we're all on, wherever the source of hire. So I just wanted to add that piece into the last point. Top tips. Depending on where you are and how you're starting out in this journey, I think the one that I always kind of say to my teams is don't overpromise. I think set a realistic expectation. And if you do that and you deliver, so if you over exceed expectations, I know it's kind of common sense, but genuinely it works. If you exceed expectation, then time and time again you'll find that you get more of a license, more of a commission to go and do more. I mean, that's the first thing. I think the second thing is have some ambition, take some risks. If you don't try it, you're not going to find out. And there's an easy way to hire, which is pick the phone up to agencies. Line managers have been doing that for years. If you want to change that story, if you want to start down this route of understanding the power of your data, reducing costs, delivering commercial benefit, you've got to take a risk and you've got to get involved, put some skin in the game and give it a go. And then the one final tip, which I think I would add in, is find yourself just one sponsor. Just find yourself one sponsor that will back you, that that you can deliver for, and use them and get them to become an advert, a good advert for you and what you're trying to achieve. That's the last tip, I really think.
Thank you, Lee. Joanna, any sort of words of wisdom?
I just say just go for it and tell your story, tell it convincingly, I actually shared the LinkedIn story at our board meeting last Saturday. And the chairman's parting words to me were, Joanna, can you please come to my office next week and show me how to set up a profile, please? I think that's endorsement in itself.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay. So we're beginning to wrap up. We've 5 more minutes left. If there are questions, just let me know. Put your hands up. We'll get a microphone to you. Was that a question over there? Not yet? Okay. So I think when we think about how social media has changed your lives and what you do every day, when you're recruiting people, that must be such a key part of the skill profile you're looking for as you build a recruitment organization of the future. So I guess, Lee, when you're looking for people to work for you, presumably this is now a key skill, understanding social media, understanding how to use these new channels.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people that work for me have, they have their passion around the specialism, and then some of them are kind of either following gadget trends, some sort of techie kind of interest, or they're passionate about talent. They're reading about things. I think it's common practice now to look at someone's profile. If I go into a business meeting, I'll look at their profile before I go in. I'll even print them off and have a group of profiles sit in front of me so I can refer back to them in the meeting. And so, I suppose from a personal brand perspective, if you're kind of looking at how you're building a team and the individuals don't have profiles, haven't been active in that space, then there's obviously something amiss, to be fair. But the thing that social media is doing is it's connecting us all now in a very meaningful way.
Anything to add there, Susan?
Social media is, I guess, the new buzzword that everyone's talking about. And for a long time, I have to admit, I didn't really quite fully understand it myself. But someone explained it to me quite well, which is that if you think about Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, Twitter tells you what people think. That's how they share their opinions. Facebook tells you about their lives and what they like to do. And LinkedIn tells you where they work and what's important to them in terms of their career. And any organisation that can harness all 3 of those will absolutely forge ahead. So whatever you're planning on doing within your organisation, actually having an integrated social media strategy and looking at how you can leverage LinkedIn as part of that will really help. For us in a bank, we're conservative. One of the big things that we're doing at the moment is really using this as an opportunity to educate our own organisation around the benefits of LinkedIn. So not just looking at it from a recruitment standpoint, as Lee mentioned, absolutely using it to go and see who you're meeting externally, but really taking it as an opportunity to get out there and do some basic roadshows, quite frankly, with a lot of our senior stakeholders, educating them around what LinkedIn is, making sure that their profiles are up to date, because at the end of the day, those people are also supposed to be your talent magnets for your organisation too. The more people you have actively out there supporting and networking your organisation, the more effective ultimately you're going to be.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any questions before we begin to close down? Okay, wonderful. Well, you can see why these... Oh, yes, was there a question? Yes, thank you.
Perhaps it's more of an observation. It's a lot of companies... My name is Barry Shelley, by the way. I run business intelligence. I do corporate advisory, and they both link into each other, if you like. You're all great brands. You're all great organizations. And that's exactly what you are. You've got a wealth and depth of resource and such. But if we're dealing with people who have, say, 100 people or less in an organization, what's the practical wisdom there?
Maybe Joanna, do you want to start, given that you had a resource challenge?
Well, given that I only have 1.5 people to do talent acquisition, I think at the end of the day, even if you do not have a head of HR, as long as even if you are a business owner yourself, you can start using the tools available on LinkedIn and connect with the people you need to connect with. I mean, one of the reasons I know LinkedIn is so successful for us is in our e-commerce team now, I don't even post jobs, and I get 25-year-old online entrepreneurs come and talk to us and say, we like your story, we like who's joined you because we can see them on LinkedIn. Can we be part of your organization? They offer to give their businesses to SingPost e-commerce, and they're on our teams now helping us to build. So I think entrepreneurs themselves, even if you do not have a big infrastructure around you, can start leveraging the tools that are available. don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that a bit actually as well. I think start by building a social media presence. Once you've, as Susie said, actually, once you've got that presence, it's about understanding how to, to realise the benefits of having it. And I think there's lots of people out there that either use LinkedIn to access their network and ask for referrals, to post some jobs, to send emails, etc. Just in a very sort of kind of, I suppose, part of the day job. So they'll spend time doing that during the day and engage the external audience. And it's a little bit of crowdsourcing going on here. If you build a big network, just ask the question of the network and get them to start helping. That's the biggest practical advice about social media. Build a presence, have a network, and then ask the question.
Wonderful. We've ran out of time, but there'll be plenty of opportunity to talk to the panel at the cocktail reception later on. You're all going to be there? Fantastic. But the last thing I just want to say thank you so much to our panelists, who are not only thought leaders, but pioneers in this field. So thank you so much. Thank you. Everyone show appreciation for Joanna, Lee, and Susie.